Two guys either side of 50 with one dream to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Andy Walker, we're back, and it just struck me listening to that intro talking about two guys either side of 50.
It's not going to be soon, is it?
We're going to have to update that in the very near future.
Yes.
That's
less than a month. Only a couple of weeks, actually.
It'll probably be about 2 weeks by the time this episode goes live, but that's exciting. That is. Or is it exciting? Is exciting the right word? Is it exciting?
Well,
is it depressing?
I mean, no, it's not depressing.
Is it confronting?
I don't know. I didn't find Fiddy to be that confronting. So, it's just a number. I mean, I think I've said a few times. I mean, I don't feel any different to what I did when I was 25. So I may look a little bit different, but don't feel a lot different. So,
you don't look any different.
Well, you didn't know me when I was 25, so
true. Well, pretty close though, not far off.
Yeah, it was close.
Yeah.
I was in my 20s.
Yeah, I was 25.
So, yeah, I think I was about 27 or 28.
Yeah. Yes, that maths would definitely math. I did, however, dig the old cricket bat out of the garage, and I'm going to get the sandpaper on it this weekend and rejuvenate it a little bit. Not to revitalise that career, but it needs to.
I was going to say, what's there?
No, it needs to be raised.
A conversion to the
it will need to be
high performance tennis going cricket.
No, it will just need to be taken out to our lunch, and it will need to be raised in an appropriate moment. I think is the go. Nice. So it just needs a little bit of a spruce up. So anyway, stay tuned on that one. No doubt there will be some photos on various social media channels, Pilgrims, that you can enjoy. But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight, Andy Walker. We are here to have a bit of a chat about breathing.
Yes. Yeah, we have. We've talked about breath work a little bit this year. I mean, during that challenging round that you had a little bit earlier in January, we did talk about the importance of breathing and breath work and how that worked for you during the country championships. So I've been reading some information, and we talked last week about the fact that we'd both started reading Golf Beneath the Surface by Raymond Prior, and
good book.
I'm probably halfway through it. I reckon I'm into sort of section 3, and it's got some really interesting perspectives and a really interesting framework to be able to understand how your brain works and to basically get it working better for you. And I think it's probably a good conversation to have. And while, I'm only halfway through the book and I'm certainly no expert, I think that, just having a conversation around it is a good thing.
There's a lot of really good stuff in there. I am a bit further through, I think, than that, but I have paused. My reading of that book just because I've needed to...
For some reflection?
Kind of. I've needed to pull the head out of too much overthinking about golf, ironically enough.
Right.
So
I would have thought that Golf Beneath the Surface would have helped that issue, given he does talk about overthinking a fair bit. He does.
And I took that advice really to heart. So I paused on that, put the book aside, and I thought I'd just, read something a little bit lighthearted to clear the head. So I've dived into a nice book on international politics.
Excellent.
So
excellent.
Yeah, that's just a nice lighthearted romp through what has happened and what may happen over the next 5 years. So anyway, we're not talking about that tonight. That's a whole separate topic. And that's the Missing Links Political Review podcast, which you can find on another channel, but not on this one.
And to be honest with you, I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen in the next 5 years. I think there's so much change and so much turmoil that's going to occur in the next 5 years. I just don't think anyone has any idea.
It's a choose your own adventure book.
Yep.
So that's the beauty of it. No. So anyway, we'll get back into that. But I do agree there's some really good stuff in Golf Beneath the Surface. Once again, for all of the pilgrims, if you haven't read it, I would absolutely recommend doing that. But before we dive into that, Andy Walker, Voice of the Pilgrims.
Oh, nice. Yep.
They're talking to us. There was one short, sharp, to the point, which came my way on Monday, as a matter of fact, just gone. And it was this. It was, what's wrong with Andy Walker? Is he ever going to play golf again? Is he scared of something? And that was from friend of the show, Alex from New South Wales.
Right.
Do you have an answer?
No.
Okay.
I sort of feel that that this topic has come up before.
It has. It has.
Yeah, and it's been made redundant, I think, in 2024 by the amount of competition golf I played, which was probably more than what I played in the previous 10 years. So, yeah, I don't really have too much to add to it.
No, fair enough. I think talk is cheap anyway, and actions speak a lot louder than words. So I think the best way to shut up this kind of criticism, Andy Walker, is for you to just lay out on the table right now for all of the pilgrims, all of the rounds that you have so far played in 2025.
0, I think that is.
Right. So what's wrong? Are you scared?
Well, and we've talked about it previously, the fact that I'm actually, moving in the process of moving house. Right?
All I'm hearing is excuses.
Selling a house,
Just
buying
excuses.
and selling a house doesn't exactly, take up. Well, it takes up a fair bit of time, especially when you're sort of painting and cleaning and getting ready for open homes and inspecting and all the rest. So
I don't know that this is acceptable.
Well,
things are going to have to change, and let me tell you why. Okay, things are going to have to change because as we sit here and record this episode, Pilgrims, it's the 30th of January, which means tomorrow is the 31st of January. I'm pretty sure. Which means the day after that is the 1st of February, and that, Andy Walker, is the start, and Pilgrims, here's your reminder, is the official start date of the 2025 yearly championship, when each month you need to start submitting rounds. So we'll let you get away with January, but from February on, you're going to have to start submitting some cards.
Well, either that or I'm not really going to accrue any points, am I?
True. You're also not going to lose any points because we have removed that penalty rule this year for the benefit of the Pilgrims. But on that topic, Pilgrims, the yearly championship, it's open to all of you. We've had a lot of entries, which is really exciting. So if you haven't yet entered, please do so. Just jump on the Facebook page, find your way to our members group, which is called the Missing Links Golf Show Podcast, and just join that group, which we will then need to approve, and that's where you can submit your cards on a monthly basis and join the banter. I'm certainly hoping that there will be some commentary on each other's scorecards as they start getting posted on that Facebook group, but it will be a lot of fun. Still yet to have our entrants from Finland, Germany and Ukraine, so please, when you hear this, jump on there and join the competition.
Who do we have? Like what countries are covered so far?
Oh, off the top of my head, there's a few states in Australia that are represented. We've also got a number of entrants from the United States of America, which is exciting. And we've got some entrants from Canada.
Nice.
We've also got
the 51st state.
Oh, we've been through this. We've also got the United Kingdom.
Nice.
Which is great. Where else have we got? I don't think we've yet got anyone from New Zealand. So for our friends across
Australia's 7th state.
No, that's just so offensive. Apologies to all our friends in New Zealand, a sovereign nation in your own right, best friends.
I'm trying a bit of fishing, here. See, going on a bit of a fishing expedition.
Yes. So our friends across the ditch, please drop us a line, get involved. Yeah, so there's quite a few. It's quite a few, which is
Nice.
exciting. It's genuinely.
So it's an international competition.
It's a global competition. Yep, it is.
Excellent.
Yep. So, and I think you'll start hearing about this. You know, people talk about the PGA Tour, talk about the Live Tour, DP World Tour, and the Missing Links Golf Show Tour. I think you'll start to hear that.
You think?
Well, if you listen to this podcast, you'll start to hear it.
Is it a tour or is it a championship?
Call it what you want.
I'm not sure how far we're going to be touring. I mean, well, look, we're going to play in a few different events.
Yeah, we'll tour around a little bit.
And I mean, I have entered the New South Wales Senior Amateur Championship, so I'm going to get at least a few rounds in March. Right?
That is exciting. We also got the foursomes in that as well, which is exciting. It is exciting. I have also attempted to enter that competition at the moment. Pilgrims is touch and go if I'm going to make the field. We'll have to keep you updated on that. Could go either.
Yes, there is a handicap limit and then a ballot if there are too many entries. So yeah, we'll just have to keep our eye on that. Hopefully you'll get a berth.
We'll see. It is interesting because the handicap cutoff was 13.4, which obviously at 8.4 I was feeling pretty good. But because it's at a venue that is incredibly popular, or it's either because of that or because we've been talking about it and made the competition incredibly popular, which is also possible. For either of those two reasons, there's been a lot of entrants, and therefore that 13.4 has come down, and I think it's currently sitting at about 8.7. So depending on depending on how many more entries come in, we will either be in the field or not.
What do they say? There's a
50-50 chance, yeah. But there's only a 10% chance of that. So we'll keep you updated, Pilgrims. Either way, it'll still be a lot of fun, and we will be playing the Foursomes Championship. We're not sure if we'll be playing in the male or female category at this point, but that's a story for another day. You've really got to sort that out anymore.
I'd forgotten about that.
It takes one email. You just got to sort that out.
That's quality.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll deal with that. And anyhow, that's, I think, a fantastically coherent intro to the show for this episode. Andy Walker. So let's move on to the topic at hand. I think you talked a little bit about golf beneath the surface. So Dr. Raymond Prior, expert in the field, Mr. Andy Walker and myself, not necessarily expert in the field, but we are golfers and we can breathe. So I think that's a starting point. But Andy Walker, maybe for the benefit of the Pilgrims, give us a bit of a background about what's attracted you to this topic.
Well, and this is obviously my understanding right now of what I've read. So
that's a good point too, because it does change the more that you delve into it and the more that you use it. Yeah,
happy to be corrected, and for me to change my perspective as we go along, because this I think it's a book that I'm going to have to read more than once. I think it's something that you have to go back and read from the start again, because you've just got a different understanding. The further you get,
and it's heavy,
greater your understanding of it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm listening to the audio book and also reading as well, and I'm finding that combination to be quite good. But it is there's a lot there. So basically, what the main concept that I guess I want to talk about tonight, the way that your brain works in regards to the way that Dr. Raymond Prior talks about it in Golf Beneath the Surface, is you've got your old brain, right? So the old brain is the fight or flight section of your brain. So that's what we used when we were cavemen living in caves, that basically kept us alive. Right?
And is this what you hear? Is this what you hear people talk about, the reptilian brain in other formats? It's essentially that. So it's what evolved first before Homo sapiens then evolved higher order thinking.
Yeah. So given it's an older part of the brain, it's actually a stronger and more dominant part of the brain. So our thinking and reasoning part So the prefrontal cortex didn't actually evolve until much later on. So there's thousands and thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, where early humans use their old brain just to survive, basically. So, so it's and it's why that you'll find that you react to a lot of things rather than having a think about it first, so that you can be more intentional in your response to something that happens to you. You have a tendency to react first because the very first thing that reacts is that old brain, because it's become, as I said, a lot stronger and more dominant than the prefrontal cortex. So it just reacts.
So throwing a club, for example, after
Correct.
a bad shot would be an old brain, reptilian brain response, because it's clearly not what you would do with rational thought and really thinking it through, particularly when your drivers cost you the best part of $1,000.
Correct. And the same as your self-talk, and certainly deprecating self-talk, and getting angry, that's all reactionary stuff that comes from your old brain. Interestingly enough as well, anxiety also comes, results, from your old brain. So that's where you're getting nervous and you've got a negative association with being nervous, which then turns to anxiety, and that potentially could be you're faced with a 3 or 4 foot putt that actually means something, or you get to the 14th, 15th hole and you don't want to mess up a supposedly good round, or you've got a shot over water standing on the first tee for a lot of people. You start getting this anxiety around whether it be performing in front of people or performing under pressure. And a lot of times when you're starting to feel anxious, that also switches that prefrontal cortex off. So you're only really operating on that old brain reactionary area, which I find quite interesting.
It is. So there's quite a bit to pull apart just out of that. So basically your prefrontal cortex, or your new or young brain, for want of a better term, is what would be responsible for your higher order functions around problem solving, complex thought, rational thought, those elements, remaining calm, remaining focused, doing all the things that you want to do on a golf course.
Yeah.
Yet when under pressure and feeling anxious, feeling nervous, feeling threatened, when there's a challenge in front of you and the fight or flight reflex kicks in, which is the old brain, not only is it more dominant, but it actually shuts off some of the functions of the new brain.
Yep.
Double whammy.
Yep. Yeah. So this is where, sometimes you feel time speeds up, that you're a little bit out of control.
And sometimes you do speed up and you start rushing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, because you're feeling threatened by the anxiety, or you found yourself in a situation which is very uncomfortable. That old brain just wants to get you out of that situation as quick as what it possibly can. So that's where you speed up and potentially rush a shot, or you'll get a little bit steery to try and not hit a bad shot, which is sort of
which is the best way to hit a bad shot. Yeah,
exactly. But rational thinking isn't part of that old brain. It's the reactionary part. So it's just trying to get you out of that situation that it thinks you're threatened by.
So the feelings of and we've all been there, I think, like when you've hit, say you've hit a bad shot and then you rush the next shot. Particularly I think this happens when you're around the green with short game, because you are closer to the ball, so you haven't had that time to calm down, relax and gather your thoughts, because maybe your next shot is only a metre or a couple of metres away from where you just hit that one from. Like, for example, putting. You miss the putt, and then you just jab the next one in rather than stopping, thinking about it, lining it up and putting a proper stroke on it, and keep stabbing it past the hole, like that fantastic footage of Ernie Els when he had that 5-putt on the first hole, whichever tournament that was, I can't remember. Things along those lines, which is, that's a shutting down of the rational thought process and just rushing to get you out of it. Because I guess what is it that's talked about is, if I can't save you from the threat, I'll at least make sure that it's over as quickly as possible, is what the old brain is really doing in that situation.
Yeah, because the old brain can't tell. It has no rational, logical thought. It because of the way that your body is reacting and with the anxiety, and it thinks that you're quite literally threatened. So it's using that fight or flight mode to just take you out of that situation as fast as possible.
So if you're playing a round of golf with one of your mates and you see this happening, and you see that they're getting really upset, they're getting angry, they're speeding up, and you can see that it's the old brain that's kicking in, right? And they're not thinking rationally, is the best thing to do to stand there really calmly and say, just calm down, you're being irrational at the moment? Is that the best thing to do?
Well, interestingly, no. And this is sort of the second sort of part of it is, and Raymond Prior talks about willpower a lot as well, and that you can't will yourself to get over these challenges of the old brain. And he used the example and you do hear it on the PGA, that the commentators go, "Oh, he just willed it into the hole."
Well, that doesn't work, because the ball doesn't understand will.
Exactly, but that's what they commentators will use. That's the example that they will use for a great player being able to get the ball in the hole in a pressure situation. So what he's saying is that those things come from what he calls a doing mode of mind, which is where we spend most of our time. We think we need to do something in order to get over our, whether it be anxiety or the threat that we feel, and that doesn't work. Trying to overcome it by doing something it actually leads to more of the same, which again, right, I think is really interesting. So it's sort of like problem solving, right? We're trying to problem solve the issue that we've got at hand, and we're trying to do something, and we feel like by solving that problem, we're doing something about it.
So for example, the getting angry, or the getting frustrated, or the swearing, or the banging the club on the ground is the doing something after a bad shot, that you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, or it could be that you suddenly get technical in regards to your golf swing. So you're trying to take it back on a certain swing path. You're trying to feel like you're going to get into a certain position throughout your swing. So yeah, it's you're trying to do something about the situation that you're in.
But I would probably just draw a fine line on that, right? Like, so there might be times when you know that technically you're making a wrong move, and you do need to physically do something to fix that. And, I think we've all probably been there with the golf swing from time to time. But that's different to focusing on a technical thought just to overcome an anxiety or a fear.
Correct.
Is that
Correct.
Kind of the subtle difference? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So then he goes on to talk about being in a being state of mind. And this is where it starts to get into some of the areas and topics that we've talked about, but never really sort of delved into, because he starts talking about, being aware of our thoughts and developing awareness of our thoughts, accepting the thoughts, and not having a a mindset where a thought is good or bad. It's accepting the thought as it comes into your head, because that's what our prefrontal cortex is designed to do. It's designed to think. So trying to stop yourself from thinking, again, a doing mode of mind, you're trying to stop yourself from thinking. So rather than doing that, you're in a being, what he calls a being mode of mind, where you're aware of the thought that comes in, accepting it and just letting it pass.
Wow. So we're identifying an issue that we obviously want to fix to help us play better golf.
Mm.
And then we don't want to do anything about it.
Correct. I know it's a bit it's a bit sort of out there, and certainly something different than sort of how I've always thought about it.
Mm.
So then he sort of he talks about mindfulness. Now, mindfulness.
This is your favorite topic.
And I'm going to be 100% honest. I've just always rolled my eyes when I hear someone talk about mindfulness, but I've never heard mindfulness talked about in the way that Raymond Prior talks about it. Right. So he talks about mindfulness, and one of the ways to develop mindfulness is through what he calls connected breathing. All right. So that's not breath work as such. So you're not trying to change your breathing. So it's not like, the box breathing or, any breathing technique.
So you're not specifically trying to, rejig the nervous system or any of those sorts of things like it would. Yeah.
No. But what he's talking about is connecting with your breathing by being aware of your breathing and how the air and oxygen is coming into your body. And that could be through a couple of different ways. That could be through, your belly moving in and out. It could be, the oxygen coming in through your nostrils, and then being aware of the impact that has on your body as a way to relax, but you're not intentionally trying to relax.
Okay. Still sounds like you're doing something.
Well, you're not doing something. It's an awareness.
Okay.
So it's the mindfulness and the awareness of your body, doing what it's designed to do, which is breathing. If thoughts, and your mind's going to wander into varying thoughts, and being accepting of those thoughts, not judging those thoughts, being good or bad, but becoming aware of when you do that, and then bringing yourself back into that connected breathing and being aware of your connected breath. So it's just being, it's developing an awareness of what your prefrontal cortex and your brain is doing. So You're not doing it, you're becoming aware of what your body and your mind and your brain is doing.
Yeah. So in some respects, what I'm trying to avoid the word doing, but it's a doing element, because you're doing the breathing deliberately, specifically, or shifting your focus to the breathing that you're already doing. Maybe a better way of saying it. The purpose of which is to move away from the reactionary mindset to what's going on around you, and to enable yourself to get back into a controlled, focused mindset where you can make good decisions and execute your skills.
Correct.
Freely.
Correct.
So it would seem to me that it would be useful to work this into a pre-shot routine.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're effectively doing, you're stopping your old brain from kicking your prefrontal cortex or your new brain out of the equation. So,
yes.
So you're bringing your rational thought and your logic from your prefrontal cortex back into the frame, rather than having it switched off by a reactionary situation that you find yourself in.
But this is more than that as well. Like, it's obviously doing those things and that's the focus, but it's also not just going to help you with decision making and clarity of thinking, but it will also help you avoid things like steery swings and getting too quick and you know, and pulling the trigger on the shot before you've actually thought it through, and all of those things that we know are responsible for double bogeys, because they're the things that mean that you follow a bad shot with a bad decision, and therefore a second bad shot, rather than giving yourself a chance to make a comeback and actually save or salvage the hole. So I think that's where a lot of that strength might lie. Which you're thinking from connected breathing, Andy Walker.
Yeah, look, and I agree with that, and it's about Raymond Prior talks about swinging freely, and he uses a couple of examples of his clients that have felt like when they get under pressure. And certainly, when they were going through college, of feeling nervous and a little bit anxious, but they're still able to play well enough to be able to get a result and win, or have a good result in whatever tournament they're playing at. But when they get onto the PGA Tour, that's not good enough. So they need to be able to get out of their own way, so to speak, and be able to play golf freely, right? And this is where he starts talking about the area of being okay with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right, because
which we've talked
you're
about
never
before.
going to, So being nervous is okay, and you've got to be okay with being nervous, because and that's uncomfortable, right? But when it leads to anxiety over a particular shot or in a particular situation, that's where you start making your guidey swings, which will end up not having a great result.
And so maybe as well, this talks about another point. When you're nervous and when you're feeling that anxiety, when you're under pressure, etc., a lot of people in that situation will try and distract themselves. Think about something else, go to your happy place, for want of a better term. And that, to me, is potentially falling into the bracket of a doing response rather than a being and accepting response, which, again, is not necessarily dealing with the issue and therefore not going to solve it, because you're just disguising one issue with another. And I don't think that there'd be anyone ever sitting there that's saying being more distracted is ever going to help your golf swing.
Yeah, exactly. And he does give a couple of examples in the book of, I think there was one example of a player being recommended by a mental coach to count backwards from 300.
I could not think of a worse idea.
Well, while you're swinging, it's just illogical. Why? I don't understand why you would do that. I mean, that's
am
a
I focusing on something
obviously.
else that's not what I'm trying to, when I'm executing a complicated skill? So it's making a great deal of sense, because when you're talking about you want to access or play freely, well, yeah, because what happens when you're nervous and when you're anxious, and I'm thinking of particular, tee shots, and this probably resonates with people. Obviously, the first tee would be a common one, but if you're someone that their miss is left and you're standing on a tee box with water up the left, I'm looking at you, Andy Walker, 13 at Coimbra, or if it, or the other way around, if it's right, if there's OB up the right and your miss is generally right, or any of those sorts of things, that's going to create anxiety. And how many times have we all felt then that we hit a bad swing, and invariably, actually, we hit it to exactly the one place that we don't want to hit it as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's done, and then you go 3 off the tee, and you smoke one up the middle with a really beautiful free swing, because the bad consequences already happened. So you're not stressing about that anymore. And, that's why that saying exists with, hit first like second, because you've then you're accessing that you're playing free golf, you're swinging freely. And that's the bit that we want to get into the first time around, not when you're teeing it up 3 off the tee.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And quite interestingly, he also references the mental scorecard as well, because he's not a fan of the mental scorecard. He sees that as a distraction technique.
Yeah, I did read that element in the book, and I thought that was quite interesting. And I think there was a bit of a specific, which I can't recall, but there was talking about it, of certain ways in which it is used, which was slightly different to the way that Neil Smith had talked to us about it way back in the beginning of last year. And I think that it could fall into the bracket of distraction depending on how you use it. But I think the point of the exercise of doing it in the way that I was using it, at least, it doesn't fall into this context. And it was explained a little bit differently in the book, which I would have to come back to you on. But the point of it was actually having a process that you've outlined beforehand. So a pre-shot routine, a focus on executing the skill over the ball and not thinking about other things, and, all of those elements. So it wasn't attempting to distract at the time. It was about focusing on having your process, getting clarity, executing, and then reviewing after the shot. And at that point, acknowledging whether or not you did stick to that process or whether or not you were distracted and doing other things and thinking about other things. So I think that's, for me, where that specific example differs a little bit from what Raymond Prior is talking about, but could certainly be used incorrectly and cause as many problems as it solves. But for me, it was one of those things which was just going, no, it's about making sure that you are actually sticking to your process and being there, not allowing your mind to run off with all of these other things and these other thoughts.
Yep.
Semantics perhaps, but I do see that there's a little bit of a difference there.
Yep. The other interesting sort of part that's that Raymond Prior covers is the fact that you do need to practice this technique. It's not, and this is what he talks about. Golfers, they'll practice their swing or short game putting. They practice the physical elements of their game, but the mental elements is not many golfers will practice this. So what he was talking about is that for a period of, I think it was 10 days minimum, he was talking about that the ideal is to practice connected breathing for somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 15 minutes a day, which I find
really challenging.
Well, that's obviously where we've struggled throughout sort of our pilgrimage. But he says with practice, what you should be able to do is you've got your connected breathing session, which is your longer session. But he said over time, you should be able to bring it back to then be able to, in a couple of breaths, bring yourself back into a centered and free state where you can swing freely and get out of that anxiety and be okay with being uncomfortable, and that's where you can incorporate it into a pre-shot routine. I think he talked about a minimum 2 or 3 breaths, connected breaths, in your pre-shot routine before every shot.
Which is not a lot. I mean, you have to do that anyway, and there's no harm, and it just gives you the opportunity to stand behind the ball and do that as you then step in and execute the shot. So I do think that's achievable. It is interesting that you talk about the practice and that side of it. And I think this is where a lot of people fall down, is you hear these theories or you read these theories and you go, oh, that sounds logical, I'm going to give that a go. And I walk out into the competition on Saturday and, the first couple of shots that, then I feel like I'm under pressure if they've gone wrong or the difficult shots or whatever. And I go, well, oh, hang on a minute. That's right. I read this thing about breathing, so I'm going to breathe now. And and it doesn't work. And I get to the end of the round, I go, well, that was a load of rubbish. So I'm not going to bother with that anymore. So I throw that out. I think we've all been guilty of that, whether it's this topic or whether it's anything else that, might even be swing mechanics. But yes, you can't just walk out there having never done it before in your life and expect that it's going to work out and be the silver bullet that's going to solve everything without some degree of preparation and practice.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the same as, well, the physical game as well. I mean, if you don't practice, you can't expect to go out on the golf course and play particularly well. So, it's logical that when it comes to mindfulness and connected breathing and having that as part of your pre-shot routine, you should practice that, and you're going to have to practice that as well, not as much as, but certainly as often as what you're practicing the physical game.
So are you trying to tell me that when Matt Fitzpatrick had the yips with his chipping, that he didn't just go out one day and do reverse-handed chipping and that solved everything?
Well, maybe he did. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty confident there's a fair bit more to do with it than that.
Right. That's insightful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, look, I mean, that's sort of just the first section of the book. Raymond Prior talks about, he talks about the brain and how the brain works, and then he starts to talk about the mindfulness and the awareness and the connected breathing. I know he's sort of now getting into, and section 3 is habits, and that's sort of where I'm up to at the moment. And what he talks about is that, the vast majority of what we do is just habits, which can be changed. And it can be changed through the prefrontal cortex. And what he says is, we operate from a pleasure and pain perspective, and these habits that aren't necessarily helpful that we have, that our old brain just has on autopilot, the old brain thinks that they are helpful. And as far as, the old brain's, as far as the old brain's aware, is that if nothing's wrong, then there's nothing wrong. So why change it?
I'm keeping you alive. You've not been eaten by a saber-toothed tiger on the golf course yet.
Exactly. Yeah. So the next part of the process is using mindfulness and connected breathing to be able to then use other techniques to be able to change the habits of your old brain to be more aligned with what you want to achieve. Now, I'm not going to start getting into that because I actually don't understand that part.
That's a very big topic in and of itself.
Yeah, and that's, I haven't got through that part of the book yet, so I'm not going to start trying to explain it when I actually don't understand it. But I'm just finding it really interesting and very different from any sort of mental framework that I've either read or listened to before, and just explains it in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of that process is that you've got the trigger event, whatever that might be, standing on the first tee, and you've got the response, which is the nerves, anxiety response, which is the doing element to a degree, driven by your old brain. And then you've got the reward, which might be that feeling of doing something to overcome this uncomfortable moment that, like I say, is, from the reptile brain's perspective, is, I haven't been eaten by a dangerous animal at this point, so I'm obviously doing something right, even though it's hampering your golf swing. And being able to then reframe that, because it's not a positive reward, it's a negative reward. So being able to reframe that in a way of going, well, I have that trigger event, and this response, well, actually, does it serve me? Does it make me feel good? Does it actually help? And really, explaining to your rational brain, no, it doesn't. Ingraining that, and then thinking through some other potential reactions of, swinging freely and accessing the skill set and those types of things, and the true benefit that will give. But that's, I think, the work that you've got to do off the course, not on the course. You can't do that in the moment. You have to be doing that visualizing and doing those other activities that that will get you there to be able to use that thought process.
Yeah, he's also got a template as well that he gets his clients to fill out, which is very intentional on changing those habits and finding out what that trigger is and what the action is and what the reward is from your old brain's perspective, and then reframing those by thinking about, okay, well, what is going to serve me best, not just on the golf course, but in life, to reframe so that I can rebuild those habits into something that's going to be a lot more aligned with the outcomes that I want.
One of the things I really like with his communication style is the curiosity that he brings to these sorts of things as well. And in those situations, rather than the traditional narrative that happens in the mind of, incident occurs and you're like, oh, I'm so annoyed, I'm so cranky, why did that happen? Why did I have to make that mistake right now and ruin the round? You'll hear him say things like, the incident's occurred and that's happened. You'll go, isn't that interesting? I wonder why I'm feeling so frustrated about that right now. And it's a curious approach which just completely short circuits the emotive responses that make such a huge difference. I think there's, obviously that's someone that's been practicing these techniques for a long, long time and understands it a lot better than most of your weekend golfers do. But it just really brings that emotional level way down when you're approaching those things with curiosity rather than with anger or frustration or emotional approaches.
Correct. Which sort of brings me to sort of my second topic of what I wanted to cover tonight, because it is a breathing topic, and it's actually an intentional sort of breathing technique topic. And one thing that we've talked about that I haven't mentioned to the pilgrims yet is that I've actually become started working with Paul Salter. Now, the pilgrims will remember we interviewed Paul Salter. Was it October or November? We interviewed Paul.
It would have been about then because he was it was episode 53 is when it was, and it was in November. Yeah, because he was staring down the barrel of parenthood at that point in time.
Yes. Well, he is now a parent to a healthy young boy. So
excellent. Congratulations, Paul. Good on you.
Yeah. He's a good guy. So we've had a number of conversations, and as the pilgrims remember, so Paul uses hypnotherapy.
He does
to be able to change your mental framework to be able to play better golf.
So have you been hypnotised, Andy Walker?
I have been hypnotised a couple of times now.
Wow.
So it wasn't with a watch. So it's actually, his description that he doesn't use a watch is very accurate.
Wow.
So it's through.
Did your kids ever get into Captain Underpants?
No. I think my niece did at one point, but
because that's where the two school kids hypnotised the school principal with one of those rings with the squirrely, line. That's off topic. He doesn't do that either. He doesn't use one of those magic rings to hypnotise you, which is a shame. Would have been so good if he did. But anyway.
No.
Yeah. Please, back to the actual process, Andy Walker.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to sort of talk too much at this stage about the hypnotherapy side. There's sort of one thing that we will cover that at some point. So we've just sort of started down that path, and there's been a few interesting revelations, I'll say, as part of that process. But Paul has actually got me doing some breath work every day, which I never thought I would actually say that phrase, but he's. he's given me little action steps after we've had a couple of sessions now, and he's given me some action steps, and one of those is breathing, and he sort of left up to me as to what I've wanted to do and how I've wanted to approach it, and he's given me a few different techniques to be able to use, but the technique that I have gone with is the box breath. And it's something that I've been using. So at nighttime, I do some stretching for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then just before I go to bed, I do some box breathing, which has been it's been really interesting. It's my sleep, the quality of my sleep has increased dramatically, which sort of was one thing that I just didn't actually. Yeah, I did not expect that to be a consequence of the box breathing. But for those who don't understand what box breathing is, so what it is you breathe in for say 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and then you hold again for 4 seconds. So it's effectively a 4 second box that brings you back to then breathing in again. So what that technique allows you to do, it improves focus, it reduces stress, brings you back into the present. So again, so you talk about mindfulness. And again, when I started the box breathing, mindfulness wasn't top of mind. It's only really been since I've started reading Golf Beneath the Surface that I've started to have a different viewpoint to mindfulness. Controls your heart rate and gets sort of some oxygen back into your sort of brain and muscles. So it's been really interesting.
And is this in through the nose, out through the mouth?
Well, no, I don't. It's in through the nose and out through the nose. That's how I've been using the box breathing.
Here's the thing on that. I believe this to be true. I can't remember exactly where I heard it, so I'm not quoting a source, but the theory was that breathing in through the nose brings in more oxygen, and out through the mouth expels the most amount of carbon dioxide.
Yeah, right.
And is therefore a more beneficial breathing technique than in through the mouth, out through the mouth, or in through the nose, out through the mouth, out through the nose. And certainly not in through the mouth, out through the nose would be the least beneficial. So for what that's worth. Now, questions. I have many. Firstly, who are you and what have you done with Andy Walker?
I don't know. Yeah, this is I've replaced golf with breath work. So
how's that working out?
Are we going to have the breathwork yearly championship?
What's your breathing handicap? Let's say. Anyway,
where do we start?
Yeah, but no. In seriousness though, when you're doing this exercise, I would imagine the idea is that you're attempting to bring your awareness back to your breathing. Am I right? Yeah. Yeah. And as the mind wanders,
it's intentional. So it's sort of different to say golf beneath the surface, where all you're focused on is you're not trying to be intentional as such with your breathing. You're just letting the breathing happen and being aware and mindful of how that's working in your body.
But in this one, you're focusing on and then you are trying to bring your focus back to the breathing. As the mind wanders, accept that it's wandered, gently bring it back to the breathing. Is that the go?
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's what I've been. Even though Paul doesn't. He didn't say that specifically. That's what I've been doing, yes.
So I don't want to shock you, but Andy Walker, you've been meditating.
I know.
So this is a moment, pilgrims. This is a moment. Andy Walker.
So I must admit, I have actually seen some pretty big benefits. As I said, sleep is a massive one.
I feel like I'm in the twilight zone right now.
maybe. The other thing that was really, really interesting, which sort of, is a sort of bit of a side point to the breathing, is that after one of the hypnotherapy sessions that I did with Paul, and he after the through the hypno session or afterwards, he ends the session pretty quickly because he just wants he wants me to have time to reflect on what's just happened and what the journey that we've been through. So you take sort of 10 or 15 minutes just to reflect on some of the things that you've become aware of through the session. But then after that, after one of the sessions, I went out and I did a training session. I did some gym work and a session on my cross trainer. One of the best sessions I've ever had. Right. Felt really strong and really powerful. And certainly on the cross trainer, I was able to push myself, further and harder than what I've really ever done before. And then after that, I went and had a cold shower and I was able to stand under the cold.
Stop it.
I hate cold water. And I hate being cold. But the cold therapy part of it, I was able to stand under a cold shower for 3 minutes and I was okay with it.
All right. I don't know what is going to happen with feedback on this show because the pilgrims are going to be as shocked as I am right now.
I know. And I shocked myself. I'm shocked, like talking about it, that these words are coming out of my mouth. I still haven't actually reconciled with my prefrontal cortex logical thinking of what I've always thought about it.
My reptile brain is going berserk right now. I don't know what's going on.
The last few weeks has just been,
wow.
it's turned my mindset on its head.
Wow, that's remarkable. So you're now a meditating powerhouse who takes cold showers.
Yeah. A mindful meditating powerhouse.
Wow.
Yeah.
If only, pilgrims, if only we knew how this would affect Andy Walker's golf. If only we could answer that question.
I will give you a little bit of an insight that I have spent some time in the high performance center and my swing's been awful. So I've struggled, after taking a break from the game over Christmas and New Year. I've really struggled with trying to get my swing back because I was really happy with that. Where I was leading into Christmas, and I felt like I was making some pretty good gains. And I mean, I sent you a couple of the golf swing replay videos, and my swing looked good. But I tell you what, I'm struggling at the moment. So yeah, I do need to start getting in and doing some practice and playing in a couple of comps before the New South Wales Senior Amateur course. Yeah, that 36-hole cut, I'm going to struggle.
Yeah, wow.
But I'll be mindful when I drive home.
The easiest thing to say is like just ease up on the meditating and start playing some golf. But I won't say that because I think what you're doing is actually really good. I think you're doing the right thing, and I'm glad that one of us has finally been able to pull their head in and give this a go. And hopefully you stick with it and it actually does make a difference. You've inspired me to think about whether or not I might do some box breathing of an evening myself. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, one of the things sort of non-golf related as well that really sort of attracted me to start working with Paul is, and he spoke about it when we interviewed him, is that he did play professional poker for a little while.
Oh, you're getting into that now as well, eh?
No, I'm definitely not. Certainly not a gambler when it comes to card games. But as you're aware, I do trade a little bit on, or more than a little bit on the financial market. So I've got US equities and ETFs. So I do some crypto trading. So there's a pretty strong alignment with, given they're both based around money and they're both based around probabilities, and dealing with your emotions, because obviously winning and losing money can be quite an emotional experience for someone. That element of risk of putting money on the line in order to get a reasonable return on investment. So I felt as though, given Paul has had that experience too, I felt quite aligned with with where he was and what his experiences have been. So we've sort of delved into a few sort of topics around sort of how that all has worked previously, and how we, how we're going to sort of deal with it moving forward.
That's a lot, Andy Walker.
It is. There's a lot there. There's been a pretty big start to 2025, and that doesn't even count the change of residence that's just about to go through.
Oh wow, crazy times, pilgrims, crazy times. Where do I even begin trying to wrap all of that up? There's I'm hosting this show with a person that I feel like I've never even met. So
you got to throw some curvevables in there.
You've
sometimes,
definitely done that,
and keep you on your toes. I mean, you can't have the same sort of stuff coming out all the time, and we've got to sort of talk about some new stuff with the pilgrims.
Apparently, 2025 is a year of change. It is a year Andy Walker is embracing meditation and mindfulness and all of those types of
hypnotherapy
things. Hypnotherapy. Might even start to become known as the guru if you're not careful. But that's definitely exciting. I do want you to play some golf at some point. Just throw that out there.
And I do need to allocate time for that.
That'd be good.
I know that I can't just talk theory all throughout the year. I guess I could.
You could,
but
plenty of other podcasts that do.
Yeah, I don't really want to. I would like to get into the practicalities of actually getting onto the golf course and playing some golf at different times. But look, I think it's been a good start, and it's laying a foundation and a base that I've never worked on before, and I feel as though that's going to be beneficial in the longer term.
Yeah, well, I think, pilgrims, I want to hear some feedback on this. I'm really interested to hear what you think of Andy Walker's new foray into this space. What you think about the revelations throughout this whole episode around the old brain, the new brain, the reptile brain, the prefrontal cortex. Spell it as well if you can.
I might struggle with that.
The importance of breathing. Intentional connected breath work.
I was going to say breathing is important.
It is. I do it on a daily basis myself, doing it right now. All of those sorts of things, I think there's a huge amount in that, but we've probably got to really put it into practice. And, as we said before, you can't just take that and walk out on the golf course tomorrow and expect that it's going to make a difference. We've actually got to use that, albeit it probably wouldn't hurt just in terms of emotional regulation on the course anyhow. And the more you do it, the more effective it becomes. There's a lot there.
I also think that your relationships will improve dramatically if you are having a more mindful and centered approach to not just to golf but to life in general. I think that can only help your relationships.
True. Yeah, you would have to think so.
So, yeah, it's a great start to the year.
There's a lot to think about right there.
Yes, a lot. So I think next week, talking about change, if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a different background for me next week because I'll be recording from the new premises, the new house, making the move over the weekend. So lots of not just sort of change of mindset. It's a
change of premises.
It's a whole clean slate.
I've got to confess, you're not going to be watching that next week because I am quite a few episodes behind in terms of the video editing and uploading onto YouTube, given the Christmas period. So apologies for that, pilgrims. We do talk about it, but I think we're probably, I don't know. I don't even want to say how many episodes behind we are. Andy Walker might get upset with me. Do some deep breaths.
Yeah. So if you're watching this in 2029,
it's possible. You will notice when all of the episodes are up. When they're all up, you will notice from this one to one of the next episodes,
episode 64 to episode 65,
there'll be a different
background.
Yeah. But if you're listening to the podcast and you just want, and you're the first one to download it, and you want to leap onto YouTube to be the first one to see it,
you're not going to get it.
Just maybe knock yourself out with episode 52 for the intro.
Wow. Okay. Good one.
So
Nice.
we'll get there. I promise we'll get there.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of other things going on as well.
Yeah. Priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but no, that is exciting. But what is also exciting, what's absolutely exciting, is the start of February, which is only days away. And that means if you're in our yearly championship, you can start playing competitive rounds from the 1st of February and start submitting scorecards. I want to see them in the Facebook group because I feel like that will only generate quite a lot of community and quite a lot of banter about particular rounds. So full scorecards would be appreciated. Can be screenshots, can be photos, whatever the case may be, but we certainly want to see them.
And let us know how your breath work went throughout the round.
I'd love even just a little short review on the round to give us a few highlights, a few lowlights, anything that you might have learned and put into practice. All of the above. I think that would be magnificent. So, and while you're at it, chuck in a video of your swing. You know, why not?
Yeah.
We can all help each other out.
Well, I know there's a few of the pilgrims out there that have invested in a high performance tennis. So,
it's so good.
Would love to see some swing video.
Yeah, we want to share information. Absolutely, we want to share because there's a lot to be learned from each other. Let's be honest. Wow. So yeah, get on board. And if you're not in the yearly championship yet, there is information on the Facebook page. So jump on there. Or if you're not on Facebook, but you still want to get involved, your options are either get on Facebook and get involved, or just send us an email, Andy Walker, the Missing Links Golf Show @gmail.com.
Sounds good.
I think it does. On that note, there's a lot to do. There's a lot for us to do. I'm going to hang up now and do some box breathing, I think, and a little bit of meditation. Apparently it will help me sleep.
Do some mindful connected breathing.
I'm going to do that.
Before you get into your box breathing.
Okay.
And then as you're going to sleep, do some meditation.
Sounds like a fantastic plan.
Mm.
Can't wait.
Yep.
On that note, that's what I'm off to do. Andy Walker, what are you off to do?
Well, there's only one thing I'm going to do. It's to rock out, pilgrims.
Thanks for listening to us today. We love hearing from our pilgrims, so please reach out to us through any of the links in the show notes. We know golf is hard, so we hope we can help you shoot better scores and inspire you to keep trying. Rock on, pilgrims.